As we all know, S&P 500 index fund is one of the widely used indexes for the US stock market. This index includes 500 the most biggest US public trade companies and covers approximately 80% of the available market capitalizations. So that kind of tells you how important it is to understand how this S&P 500 index works and how does the market move every day. Because if you don't understand this, it's going to be difficult for you to keep investing in S&P 500 index consistently with confidence. So that's why in this video, we're going to look at what are different metrics that we need to understand if we're willing to invest in S&P 500 index fund in Charles Schwab. So let's take a look. Here you see in my screen that I have logged in at Charles Schwab account. Now I go to the accounts, I click on here, I click on the summary. So now here you see I have invested some money. I have 3 accounts in total where I put money, and then from those accounts I invest the money to S&P 500 index funds. So for example, I'm going to click on one of the accounts here, and then I'm going to take you to the S&P 500 index fund. You see SWPPX, and you click on here. And now here you see, so this is the overview of the S&P 500 index fund, and you can see here how does the market or the stock price changes every day. So basically SWPPX is the code for S&P 500 index fund in Charles Schwab, and here you see the buy and sell. Buy means you can buy it, and then by clicking on sell you can sell it to somebody else. So now here you see there are other different metrics which are very important to understand. For example, here you see large blend. Large blend means that these are the funds that are considered fair representations of the overall US stock market in terms of size, growth rates, and price. So stocks in the top 70% of the capitalization of the US equity market are defined as large cap. Now the other thing you see here, no load, no fee. So what does that mean? So no load, no fee basically means it's a fund in which shares are sold without a commission or sales charge. So that means there will not be any sales charge or any fee if an investor wants to buy the share or sell the share in the market. So basically there's no fee. So the next one you see, select list. So select list is built by identifying funds that offer you the best combination of factors such as performance, risk, and expense. Some of the criteria for a fund being in the select list are funds with no transaction fee or no sales fee, funds with assets of more than $50 million, funds that provide a diverse list of options, funds that are expected to outperform their peers over the next 12 to 36 months. So now we're going to look at the most important metric here, which is the per unit share price, or which we call NAV, net asset value. So as you see here, $97.40. So what is that? So many people might say that it's a share price, that is per share price, but let's try to understand in details what is that. So this is called NAV, which stands for net asset value, as I have told you before. So NAV is an important metric for knowing how much each share of an investment fund is worth. So it is the price in which investors can buy and sell in the market. Let's look at other metrics here. So as you see here, the other one is in red, minus $0.47 or minus 0.48%. So it means that how much the share price increased or decreased after today's closing date compared to yesterday's. So for example, you see here 0.48%. So this means that the share price dropped by 0.48% from yesterday to today's closing date. Now, for example, if there was plus 1.48%, that would mean how much the share price increased from yesterday to today's closing date. And in this case, it increased by 1.48% after today's closing date compared to yesterday's. So this is very important, because if you understand the price drop or price increase after today's closing date compared to yesterday, it's going to help you to understand how this index fund is doing, how the market is moving, so that you can have the overview of how it is working. And that's going to help you to make a decision whether you're going to invest more or less, how long you're going to hold it. But usually S&P 500 index funds are for long term, so like for 5, 10, 20, 25 years. It's not for everyday buy and sell kind of fund. Now, so let's look at other metrics. You see here, another metrics that we need to understand, which is very important, is net expense ratio. Now, this is very important. So let's try to understand what is net expense ratio. So an expense ratio tells you what percentage of an ETF's total assets are being used to cover its annual operating expenses. Now, think of an expense ratio as the cost of doing business, which is then passed on to the investors. The net expense ratio, also known as the total expense ratio, shows you what you will pay. An expense ratio is the total annual expenses of the fund divided by the fund's total net assets. So here the expense ratio is 0.02%. It means if you invest $10,000 in this fund, you will pay $2 in fees each year. Now, if you have $100,000 in this fund, you will pay $20 each year fee to Charles Schwab or whoever is your account to it. So a lower net expense ratio can mean higher returns over time. So if the net expense ratio is lower, that means you're gonna have higher return every year. But if an expense ratio is higher, that means you're gonna have lower return each year. You're gonna pay more to the bank or financial institution, because this is the fee that you need to pay them as part of their operating expenses. So now here's other one is gross expense ratio. Now the question is, what is gross expense ratio? So gross expense ratio shows you how much a fund costs. It adds any fee waivers or reimbursement that the fund managers may offer. For example, if a fund might have a gross expense ratio of 1.2%, that could mean that the fund manager has fee waiver of 0.3% included in it. Now let's try to look at the next one, YTD return. So what does that mean? So YTD return is the amount of profit or loss realized by an investment since the first trading day of the current calendar year. Here, 9.11% means that S&P has generated 9.11% return to its shareholders from the first trading day until today. Let's look at the next one, which is distribution field. So a distribution field is the measurement of cash flow paid by a fund like S&P 500 index. Here, 1.1576% means that S&P 500 index annually pays 1.15% of its stock price in dividends to its shareholders. Now let's look at the next one, which is 52-week range. So this range is very important to understand, because the range that you see here, 76.75 and 98.78. So this means that over the last year, S&P 500 index has traded as high as $98.78 and as low as $76.75, and is currently trading at $97.40. That means the stock is trading 1.39% below its 52-week high and 27% above its 52-week low. So this is very important, so you understand that how much the stock price is increasing compared to the lowest, or decreasing compared to the highest. So I hope this video has helped you to understand different metrics of S&P 500 index fund, and is going to help you to make a decision how much or whether you're going to keep investing. Because if you don't understand all the metrics, you're not going to have confidence investing in this S&P 500 index fund. So please let me know what your comment or feedback, and do not forget to share with your friends, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.